Do not buy another sports card until you watch this video. Are you getting ripped off by wax? Are you obsessed with one-on-ones? Then you shouldn't buy another sports card until you watch this video, and here's why. The sports card market is down 80% from the pandemic highs. And cards like the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan sold for only $40,000 before the pandemic. But those prices shot all the way up to $750,000 during the bubble. What does the 86 Jordan sell for now? That's what we explore this week on EDI Sports Show. Cue the intro.
Sports Show every Friday, hot take, what's the market, behind the scenes from the car shows to the streets. There's only one show, there's only one show I wanna watch, EDI Sports Show every Friday.
Welcome back to EDI Sports Show. I'm your host, Doc Schwartz, and we have a huge show this week. Yes, this is an unbelievable show. I have so much to go through. But first, let me get to, we are very close to 2,000 subscribers. Yes, we have 1,928. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe now. And the second piece that I want to get to before we get into this show is if you have any cards that you would like to sell, please fill out this Google form right here. Basically, this is, if you have cards to sell, just go in. It's a Google form, fill it out. Tell me what cards you have. I am in contact with a bunch of dealers and sports card shops that are looking for inventory. So if you're looking to sell your cards, please go to the Google form and fill it out. This week's show, here we go. This is the rundown. So here you see it. We have sustainability, the card of the week. What is the 86 Jordan worth? And then we'll get to your viewer comments. Now, before we get into the show, I have the question of the week, and that is, I want you to put down in the comments, how many years experience do you have in the hobby? Are you a longtime collector like me, or are you brand new? Did you just get into this during the pandemic, like 2019, 2020, 2021? Or do you have 40 years experience like I do? Now, let's get into this week's show. And the first thing that I'm talking about is sustainability. Now, what do I mean when I say sustainability? And I'm talking about how you stay in this hobby for a long period of time. Like, I have 40 years in the hobby, and that's not by accident. There's actually a path that you should take if you want to stay in this hobby long term, because to be quite honest with you, I don't see the advantage, or I don't see the fun in getting into this in 2019 and quitting in 2023, or getting into it in 2022 and saying, you know what, 2025 is not my year. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't see the fun in doing it for a couple years and then just going, why do I have all these cards? So I would hope that anyone that's subscribed to this channel not just wants to stay in this hobby long term, but you want to help other people stay in this hobby long term. So if you know someone that's brand new to the hobby, please share these videos with them. Tell them about this show, EDI Sports Show. We cover sports and sports cards every single week. Like I said, I'm going to get more into sports as we get the weeks going forward. But for right now, what we're going to talk about this week is sustainability. And that's why you should not be buying any more cards until you learn this secret. Now, here we go. What is the secret to sustainability? How to sell your cards. Yes, before you buy one more card, you better know your exit strategy. Now, that's not to say like your exit strategy with your collection. If you're a collector, you need to have PC cards, and then you need to have other cards that you sell, that you make money off of, and that you buy your PC cards. That's how you stay sustainable over 40 years. I do not spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per year. And I think that's the piece that most people are missing, is that when you look at people like me, a 40-year collector, you must assume that I must be spending thousands of dollars every single year, and that's not true. I'm speaking to the choir. A lot of you are advanced collectors just like me. You've been doing this for a long time, and I know that some of the things I say to all of you, again, the advanced collectors, you think, well, that's obvious. Like, everybody knows that stuff. And what I want everyone that's watching this channel realize is that if you think that everything that I'm saying is obvious, you're an advanced collector. And not everyone is at the level that you know. Please stop making that assumption. Everyone doesn't know what you know. It's not common knowledge. You have learned everything you know the same way that I have over 40 years of experience. We know more than the beginning collector. Stop making the assumption that everything you know, everyone knows. It's not common knowledge. And so part of the reason why I wanted to start this show, again, EDI Sports Show, and do this every single week, was to not just speak to the advanced collectors out there, like me and you. We know what's going on. We know where the scams are. We know, like, oh yeah, that's probably a bad idea. But the beginning collector, the young collector, doesn't know this stuff. And if we don't educate the younger collectors and the new collectors, then they're never going to learn it except the hard way. And I don't want more people in the hobby getting scammed. I don't want that to happen. So what I hope is that my subscribers, again, close to 2,000 of you, I hope that you start sharing these videos with new collectors. If you see people on Facebook, on Reddit, on YouTube who don't know what they're doing, share the link to this video. Please share it with them so they don't make these mistakes. I've been talking about this for the last few weeks, which is you have to learn how to sell your cards. And the reason why is because you want sustainability. You don't want to just go and spend a bunch of money on cards and then not be excited about them in a few years, like literally saying, why do I have all these cards? If you don't love the hobby, this is not going to be fun. If you don't love sports, this is not going to be fun. And if you don't like sports cards, which is basically pictures on a piece of cardboard, this is not going to be fun. It's actually going to be very, very upsetting. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to kind of be throwing good money after bad. And I don't want that to happen anymore. I want people to enjoy the hobby. So here's how you sell cards. All right. Now, I've done a whole bunch of videos. If you haven't seen the playlist, My Sports Card Journey, which is my origin story, there's 4 episodes. You can watch the whole playlist right here in the description below. I encourage you to do that. It's 4 episodes. Again, I go through the whole thing. I actually have been watching it over myself just to kind of do a deep dive and analysis. I like to be my own video critic or film critic and be like, was that any good or was that not? And to be honest, I watched it last week once more, and I was like, you know what? It's actually better than I thought it was. I tend to be my own worst critic, and I watched it again now almost a year later, and I'm like, I think I did a pretty decent job. But my point being is that you have to know how to sell cards. If you watch that playlist, you will see that there are 8 ways to sell cards. And I used all 8 ways. Now, what I want to focus on, because I'm not going to do that in this week's episode, if you want to go watch those 8 ways, please go watch that playlist. Because you will find out what that is. But what I want to talk about this week is just something a little bit more specific. And the only way to know how to sell your cards is you have to know what they're worth. All right? So that's why we're going to get into what the 86 Fleer Jordan is worth a little bit later in the show. Because if you don't know what the cards are worth, you cannot begin to sell your cards. If you try to go on Whatnot right now and sell your cards, you're probably not going to make 100% of comps. That's just going to the way it is. Like, you're not going to make that. Therefore, if you don't know what the cards are actually worth, you may be real surprised by what cards are selling for. So if you're hoping for, let's say you have a card that's worth $100, or you think it's worth $100, and you go put it up on Whatnot, it only sells for 60 or 70 bucks, and you're like, wow, I thought I was going to get a lot more for that card. Or if you put it up on eBay, it only sells for $55 or $60, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting undercut here. But are you really? The problem is that you don't seem to understand how the market works. And we do have a problem in the hobby when it comes to the market. There is no central location to sell your cards. eBay is absolutely the largest online reseller for cards, but it's not a central location. There's no rules, there's no transparency, there's no guardrails, there's no boundaries. You can literally charge whatever you want to charge, and the market doesn't get to say yes or no, because if you don't want to sell, you don't have to sell. That's not the way it works on Wall Street. Again, if you watch any of the other influencers, specifically Sports Card Investor, he wants you to think that this is an asset, that this is like the stock market. That's not true. If you put your stock up for sale on the stock exchange, when it hits the price, you have to sell. You can't back out. That's not the way it is with sports cards. You still have the right of refusal in the sports card market. Therefore, even if someone offers you the market price, you can say no. You can't do that in Wall Street. You can't do that with stocks. You can't do that with bonds. Once it hits the market price, you must sell. Otherwise, you are committing fraud. And that's the difference between this and Wall Street. So hopefully the advanced collectors understand that, and you can teach the new collectors that that's why this is not an asset class. That's why this is not a real investment. Of course you can buy something low and sell it high. Yes, absolutely. This is a commodity. It is not an investment. This is a product that has value. And like I said last week, the sports card market, the overall market, and if you missed this video, hey, go back and watch this one. But if you missed the video, I tell you exactly how big the entire sports card market is, at least based on my estimates. Now, could I be wrong? Of course I could be wrong. None of you will know the right answer either. It's all based on speculation, and that's part of the problem as well. Everything is based on speculation. And if you're curious to know, can you invest in sports cards? I got another playlist for you right here. Can you invest in sports cards? There's a whole series of videos telling you exactly whether you can or cannot invest in sports cards, whether this is a safe investment or a risky investment. To be quite honest with you, it's a lot of risk. And I don't want you to take as much risk anymore because, again, the whole point is sustainability. Can you go into this hobby right now in 2024 and stay in the hobby to 2020-30, 2020-40, and 2020-50? That's the key. Hopefully everybody that's subscribed here wants to be in this hobby for the next few decades. Because otherwise, I don't know why you're collecting cards. I really don't understand it. I don't want you to start chasing after bad wax deals and one-on-ones that are not going to be worth anything in the future. And I know a lot of you are saying, well, but you don't have a crystal ball. Like, how do you know what it's going to be worth in the future? Because I got 40 years experience. I've seen this happen over and over and over again. Like when there was the hype back in the late 80s and early 90s, everybody thought, oh, sports cards going to be worth so much money in the future. And none of them were. None of them were. In fact, the Mickey Mantles, the ones that everybody touts right now, the 52 Mantle, like, oh my God, the 9.5 sold for $12.6 million. I mean, oh, everybody knew it was going to sell for that. No, no one knew it was going to sell for that. It's a fluke. Literally a fluke. And in last week's show, I told you how many cards sold for over $1 million total. So if you want to know the answer to that question, go back to last week's show and go watch it. Again, how many cards have sold for more than $1 million? Go back and watch it. Put down your advanced questions in the comments. What do you think about? Because I'm doing an audience, survey here. Like, I run polls. If you haven't been in the community tab, go vote on the community poll. If you are a brand new collector, put down your questions. Like, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as a bad question. There's no such thing as a bad question. So ask your questions. All right, let's get to the card of the week. This week's card of the week is the 1979-1980 Topps Wayne Gretzky card. Wayne Gretzky played 20 seasons for the Edmonton Oilers, LA Kings, St. Louis Blues, and New York Rangers from 1979 to 1999. The Hall of Famer holds 55 total NHL records and is a 4-time Stanley Cup champion. Now it's time to answer the question that you've been waiting for in this video, and that is, what is the 86 Jordan actually worth? And before we get into what it's worth, let's do a recap. Like I said, this card sold for $40,000 before the pandemic, and then during the pandemic it sold for $750,000. Yes, can you believe that? $750,000. Now, for all the advanced collectors, you already know that that was only one sale. For the beginning collectors, I want to make this very, very clear. One card, one PSA 10 sold for $750,000. That was not a slew of cards, just one sale, which means it's an outlier. And in other words, that means you could just throw out that sale. That cannot be used to understand what the card is worth. And this is very key for when you understand how much the card is actually worth. I went to PSA to look at their auction list prices. Now you understand, no one place has all the sales. Also, there are private sales that are not always recorded. And this is why it's so difficult to figure out how much cards are actually worth. Everything is sort of an estimate. So everything that I'm telling you, it's an estimate. This is what I think the card is worth based on estimates, based on what I can see, based on sales and volume. That's what I can, because if there's a lot of volume, then a card is really going to be worth what it's selling for. If there's not a lot of volume, you have to kind of do an estimate and go, wait a minute, is the trend up or down? Where should it be? Where should the next sale be? So here's my point. I went to PSA and this is what I found. So in March of 2023, a PSA 10 sold for $130,000. That's right, $130,000. Now, what does that mean? Again, remember, during the pandemic, one PSA 10 sold for $750,000. Well, there's a big gap between $750,000 and $130,000. Now, before the pandemic, it sold for $40,000. So we're up a lot. In fact, we're up 4 times from $40,000 to $130,000. All right? We have to understand what the metrics are, what we're comparing to. Now, that's not the last sale, and the last sale that I could find, again, based on my research, if you guys can find other recent sales, please let me know. But this was on Sports Card Pro. The last sale that I could find was in July of this year. And this PSA 10 sold for $198,000. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of numbers here. So we have $750,000 during the pandemic, that's one sale. We've got $130,000 back in March of 2023. And now we've got $198,000 in July of this year. That's just this summer. Here's my point. That $198,000 is one sale. In fact, that's the only sale of this Jordan Fleer card that's recorded that I can find, which means that it's not worth $200,000 either. So if it's not worth $750,000 and it's not worth $200,000, is it worth $130,000? I'm gonna err on the side of fairness and honesty and transparency and say that yes, the Michael Jordan PSA 10 is probably worth anywhere, according to the data, between $120,000 to $140,000. That's what it's worth right now. Now, I understand that that's confusing. I fully understand. You might be saying, but Doc, how did you get to that 120 to 140? Where there's a $750,000 sale sitting out there. There's a $998,000 sale sitting out there. That just happened in July. How could you just discount it without any regard? Like, that happened. Someone paid $200,000 for that card, and you're just throwing those numbers out. Why are you doing that? So here's what I want to do. I want to explain how I get to these valuations, how I understand what the card is actually worth rather than what someone's paying for it. And I know this is really confusing, but this is also advanced collecting. This is where if you want to take your collecting to the next level and understand what your cards are really worth, then you need to understand this concept. So here we go. Let me explain it for you. The difference between what someone will pay for a card and what a card is actually worth is volume. That's the key. What someone will pay one time for a card is just why this is a collectible. This is why this is called a PC hobby. This is why it's not an asset. This is why it's not investing. This is why you can't bank on it. It's an estimate of how much something is worth. But what the actual values are based on volume. So the majority of the sales for the 86 Fleer Jordan are between $100,000 and $150,000. That's the max volume. So on the low end is 100 and on the top end is 150. Yes, there are outliers. People are paying 198. One person paid $750,000. Again, I want to meet the guy that paid $750,000 for a PSA 10 rookie card. What were you thinking? I mean, you could literally go to a card show and probably pick up the same card for half that amount. Yes, you could have paid $300,000 for that card if you just went to a card show. So my point being is that if you don't understand these valuations, you can seriously overpay for cards, which is exactly what happened to the guy that paid $750,000 for this card that's clearly not worth $750,000. And that's what I want all of you to start recognizing is what are cards actually worth compared to what people might pay. Now, if you're going to be an honest collector, and some of you are honest and some of you are not, but if you're going to be an honest collector, it's good to know what your cards are really worth, because when someone comes to you and basically says, like, I'll give you $1 million for your cards, I mean, you have to kind of say, like, do you really just want to give me $1 million, or do you think they're worth $1 million? Because if you want to give me $1 million for this sale, I'm going to take it, yes, but you do realize that you're overpaying for my collection, correct or not? And maybe the person doesn't know that. Maybe they're like, well, what do you mean? It's not worth $1 million? And you'd be like, no. Like my collection, I don't know how much it's worth at this point. Honestly, I haven't done an evaluation on my own collection, so I don't even want to speculate. Could be worth $100,000, could be worth more than that, could be worth less. I have no idea. I have not done an evaluation on my collection because I'm still paring it down. I'm still selling stuff off and I'm still figuring out what I want to keep and what I want to get rid of. So I don't know what my collection is worth. Overall, based on everything that I've sold so far, I've sold about $100,000 to $200,000 worth of value. I haven't got that in cash, but that's the value that people bought. So I don't know what that tells you. Obviously, that's not $1 million. For any of you that understands that $200,000 is not $1 million. So my point being is that I don't know what my collection is worth right now because I haven't done a valuation on it, but I can tell you that the 86 Fleer Jordan is worth anywhere between $120,000 and $140,000. So if you want to pay what it's worth, you should pay within that range. Now, if you want to overpay, that's your choice. That's your choice. And I want to be very, very clear. You're allowed to overpay if you want to overpay, but you should know that you're overpaying. Now, what do I think this card is going to be worth in the future? I don't think it's going to be worth $150 in the future. Sorry. I know that might upset a lot of people, but I don't think so. What I think that this card is going to be worth in the future is between $100,000 and $120,000. I think that's the sweet spot for this card. I think if you're looking 5-10 years down the road, I think this card is going to be worth $100,000 to $120,000. And that's it. And the reason why is because there's too many cards on the market. And that's what everybody needs to start understanding, is that volume matters everywhere. The volume of sales matter and the volume of cards matter. Volume is the separator. The reason that the SGC 9.552 Mantle sold for $12.6 million is because there's one in the world. That's it. It's not manufactured rare. It is. It's the only one. So what does that make the PSA 10 worth? There's only 3 of them in the world. Well, because there's 3, that's why it only would be worth between $15 to $20 million. If there was 1, then I would say it's probably worth $25 million. But there's not 1, there's 3. So that means it has to be between 15 to 20. Now, if there's no bias to PSA over SGC, I think 15 million is absolutely what the valuation is, because I think the SGC 9.5 is worth $10 million. 10 million from now till 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I think you could sell it easily for $10 million. I think that's what it's worth. And that's it. Now, might someone overpay for the card? Absolutely. Might someone overpay for a PSA 10? Absolutely. There's always going to be someone who might overpay. But if you're trying to buy what things are worth, that's what I think they're worth. And that's the answer to this question. So hopefully that helps. Now let's get to your viewer comments. And here we are at my favorite part of the show. That's right, your viewer comments. I can only get to a few comments this week because my mom is actually having surgery this week, and I just don't have enough time to go through all the comments, but I will read them all. I promise I will get to them. If you have a question or comment, put it down below, and I'll get to it in a future episode. So I want to make this very clear before we get into the section. I'm saving the best comment for last, so don't click away. I'm saving the best comment for last. Let's get to the first one. This is from USA Cards, and USA Cards has done a lot of comments on the channel, and I do appreciate it. This one is a good one, so here we go. That's what you need to understand. Try to make a video where you don't say that. I challenge you. Awesome comment, and here's why I love this comment. I agree with you. I know that. It's part of my speech pattern. Unfortunately, what people need to understand is that you all have a speech pattern. Everyone has a speech pattern. How you've been talking your entire life. There are phrases that each one of you use. That's just the way it is. That's part of who you are. It's part of your personality. In order to change the way you speak, you have to actually deep dive on, okay, what do I say? How do I actively not say it? And what am I going to replace it with? What's the phrase I want to replace it with? Now, I'm learning how to speak differently. I understand. I fully understand, and I agree. I don't want to say that as much as, actually, I don't ever want to say that. The problem is that that's not how my brain works. It's just not. So I love the comment. You're 100% correct. I'm trying to not say that, but I can't promise anything because that's how I've been speaking my whole life. So again, thanks USA. That was an awesome comment. All right, next one. This is from Philly Joe. He is an OG subscriber, so let's see what he's got to say. You forgot about Pete Gray. Seriously, my hardest thing is selling stuff I don't want. Man, It's a lot of work and takes time getting better at it, so thanks for keep pounding it into my head. Great episode. Well, Philly Joe, yeah, that's the problem that I think everybody has, is that they don't like selling. That's the problem. And so because you don't like it, you procrastinate. And it's so much easier to just buy stuff. That's it. I mean, it doesn't get any more complicated than that. It's easier to buy, selling is hard, and so you want to procrastinate the selling. The problem is that if you don't sell the stuff or you don't trade stuff away, you start building a hoard. And this channel is all about not building a hoard. I don't want you to have a bunch of stuff and then call it a PC. That's not a PC. A PC is that you only have the stuff you like. That's a PC. So start going through your cards, start picking out, literally just put aside the stuff you like. Just put it aside, and then you'll have all the stuff you need to get rid of. And that's it. Start doing that. I know, and to be honest, that's the fun, like separating what you want from what you don't want. That's the fun part. The hard part is, yes, getting rid of the stuff you don't want. So great comment, Philly Joe. And like I said, we're going to get to the last comment, which is the best comment of the week. I mean, this one's a doozy. This one's awesome. So let's get to it. This is from Michael, XK9GS. I have 135 graded cards and roughly 500 raw cards in my PC. I also have 136 graded cards not in my PC that I'm actively trying to sell trade. I used to have a lot more than this, but did a lot of work this year to trim the fat from my collection and only keep the cards I truly enjoy. I also no longer buy cards or players and teams that I don't want to PC simply because I think it's a great deal, and now only buy non-PC cards if I think I can immediately flip them for profit to a dealer. Note I said flip to a dealer, so the deal on a non-PC card has to be really good now for me to buy one. This is literally one of the best comments I have ever gotten on this channel. And again, I want to thank Michael for it, because this is the message. Great job. Literally, you are going to be in this hobby for a very long time. Not only that, but you're going to love every minute of it. If everyone can do what you're doing, literally, if everyone in the hobby can do what Michael's doing, you're all going to be so much happier, and you're going to have a little bit of cash at the end of the year to then use for the next year for your budget. This is how you keep it sustainable. Stop buying cards with the dream that I'll sell them. Folks, Philly Joe said it before. Selling is hard. Getting rid of your cards is a lot of time and effort. It's not as easy as you think it is, or you know that it's not easy. Therefore, you're procrastinating. You're not doing it. You're not selling it. I am in the middle, and I've been talking about this for like 2 weeks now. I'm in the middle of putting a lot together, a lot to sell. And I'm trying to build the value up. My goal is to try to build it up to $5,000. That's the value of the lot. I don't know how far it is because I've just put all the stuff together, and now I have to actually evaluate each piece of it. So there's autographed bats in this lot. There is sealed wax and cellos. There's a bunch of star cards. There's a bunch of vintage cards. There's a bunch of special stuff like uncut sheets. Like I have an uncut 1985 Kirby Puckett rookie sheet in this lot. 1985 Topps, Kirby Puckett rookie, it's uncut. I think I also have an uncut sheet with the Mark McGwire USA card in it, I believe. And there's like 5 uncut sheets in this lot. Again, those, I don't even know what they go for because there's no comps on these things. No one has these. No one has uncut sheets at the level that I have uncut sheets. No one does. So it's not like I can go to eBay and go, oh, this is what they're selling for. No one sells this stuff. These are such specialty items. Now, this is perfect for a man cave or perfect for a kid's bedroom because basically you buy it, you frame it, you put it on the wall, and it's protected. It's protected. You can literally just collect cards just by buying one uncut sheet. There you go. There you have sports cards on your wall. Again, you want to frame it to protect it, but there you go. That's a novelty piece. You can use it and it's great because now your collection's on the wall. That's a great way to be a collector. Again, my point being is that I'm building the lot. I'm building it up, and it takes time. This is not something you can do in a day. It's not something you can do in a week unless you spend every single day doing it. And I just don't have that kind of time to spend on sports cards. It's a fun hobby, which means that I do it when I have time. I now spend more time on this show than I do on sports cards. It's just the way it goes. But I'm having a lot of fun doing this show, so I like it and go, okay, well, I don't have as much time to spend on sports cards. I just don't. So do I go to shows every single week? No. Can I go to shows every single week? No. I don't make enough money from this channel in order to justify going to shows every single week. I just don't. So you have to make decisions for yourself. You have to start being smart and really figure out, okay, what do I want to do? Where do I want to put my time? Where do I want to put my effort? And can I get anything of value back? So if you can sell cards, I know a lot of you are sellers. Absolutely. You have eBay stores, you have Reddit accounts, you're selling all the time. It's great. Honestly, if you're a seller, I would love to interview you on this channel so that we can kind of walk through how you sell your cards. That would be great for everybody on this channel to know, oh, that's the strategy that you use. Like I said, in this episode, there are eight ways to sell your cards. And if you want to watch that, playlist, that's it, My Sports Card Journey right here. Again, 8 different ways to sell your cards. I want to thank everybody for joining me this week. We got a big show next week. Again, this is the teaser right here. This is what's going to be next week. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button if you like this channel. And leave a comment down below. We'll get to it in the viewer comment section. So anyway, this is Doc saying, have a great weekend.
There's only one show I wanna watch. HOBBYEDI Sports Show. Drop every Friday. Hot take. Where's the market? Behind the scenes. From the card shows to the streets.